All right. Here we go. Hello, I'm joined by Joe Zolper. I always want to put an H in there from Garage Squad. He's joined the Let's Roll podcast, the CommercialNationals.com Let's Roll podcast, I should say. Thanks for joining us today. I hear you do a lot of podcasts. I'm pretty honored that you're joining me.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. I think it's really cool that, you're doing this for everybody. And I think we got a lot to talk about. We discussed in the beginning, about some of the stuff. But, I think this will be a good podcast for a lot of people to, hear what's going on in the industry and what we can do to make it better. I mean, everyone's got a complaint. Everyone's got, to whine about some. But, we're also going to talk about how we can make it better today, I think will be, the main topic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you haven't been to SEMA for a couple of years, you were saying, but right now, I think the big thing at SEMA is trucks. Trucks are dominating. They're almost more than half trucks now. I've seen that the last several years, just growing.
Well,
that's
usually,
the aftermarket part.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The aftermarket part. And, you got to look at it, from a different perspective in the big picture. The reason why trucks seem to be dominating is the industry always goes to what's relatable. And right now, everybody can go buy a truck fairly reasonable and build it and customize it. I mean, buying a muscle car right now is just not reasonable for a lot of people. I mean, you buy a 69 Charger, they want 15 grand to 20 grand for a complete rotted roach. You can build a badass truck for 15, 20 grand. So that's how things become popular. They also become affordable and within the reality and the confines of your average, working man.
One of the things that you see is there's a lot of aftermarket parts, and that's probably why everyone's doing that. They're buying all these aftermarket parts. That's why they're so popular at SEMA. But what's going to happen with the cars? I mean, that's the next question. A lot of the manufacturers are going away from cars, and there's always rumors that the Camaro's disappearing, and then they come out with the new Corvettes. So who knows what's going to happen with that? But they just hear rumblings like, "Oh, the Camaro's going away." I hope not, but it's always a possibility.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's as far as, the new car market, that's on a different level of change. I mean, they can end that today if they want. I mean, that's just something that, enjoy it while it's here. The last, we'll call it 10 years, when they started remaking, the Mustang to look like it did in the 60s, and same with the Challenger in the 70s, and so on and so forth with the Camaro. The last 10 years of that craze, it can't last forever. And what it has to do with, in my opinion, is, that generation that grew up back in the late 60s and 70s, they're the ones that are, wanting to buy these new cars that look like the old cars. And we love them. Everybody loves them. And, but, that's not going to last forever, and there's going to be change coming. And I'll admit it. I mean, we got change coming that I don't care for. I mean, I seen the rendering of the 4-door Mustang, electric SUV, whatever. I'm not for it, but change is change, and everyone has their own opinions. My opinion with that is a little bit more of paying attention to what the people want versus what you think is good. I think sometimes that needs to be addressed a little bit.
Yeah, the Mustang. I know a lot of Mustang people, and they were. Frankly, just kind of pissed off that they even named that a Mustang. There are a lot of people mad about it. I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh yeah, I heard all about it. And I did a video on my Facebook page, and I was talking about the industry and how how these people think that they know what us gearheads want when they're not gearheads. Was basically the topic of my conversation. And I used the new Mustang as an example But sometimes I got to tell you, I think people only hear what they want to hear. I mean, because the whole entire new Facebook feed turned into, Mustang bashing and Mustang opinions and Mustang owners, and it had nothing to do with Mustangs. It had to do with, people making decisions for us in our industry that know nothing about our industry. And then you wonder why they don't succeed. And that's really what the message I was trying to explain. But boy, it turned into a Mustang bashing fest, and that's not at all what I was trying to do.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, why would they even call it a Mustang? That's the first question, I guess, unless they wanted to get people stirred up about it. I don't understand the theory of that idea.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got a Challenger. There you go.
Yeah.
Surprise!
Look at this guy. What are you doing, dude?
Can you see my shirt?
No. Let me see your shirt. What do you got?
Looks familiar.
That a boy right there. You wearing that to work today?
Of course. Everybody's jealous.
Hey, look I wore a shirt for you too. Look. Perfect.
I love it. That's
For those
hilarious.
For those of you guys that don't know, me and Paul met and we hit it off right out of the gate. I mean, Paul's a great dude. We love hanging out, and we hung out at PRI this year, and we hung out at some parties. We had a great time doing a lot of people watching, and then he came down when I was in St. Louis with the race car. He come in there and I put him to work. He thought he was just going to come and hang out, and I just handed him tools and put him to work and said, "You're going to come and help me now."
Yeah, and then you had to show me how to use those tools too.
Yeah, I did. I had to explain to you these were pliers. Okay, these are big things, right?
Right.
So
yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, man, we had a blast. I mean, it was great, and and this is what I'm talking about. Paul's on a TV show, I'm on a TV show, and so naturally, we kind of met, and we hit it off. We're both involved in the same things. We're in this, the TV industry, and that's how it should be. I mean, am I right, Paul? I mean, we're trying to teach people our knowledge, and we're trying to, bring the younger generation in, and we do it on TV, and that's how it should be.
Right. Well, we do what we love, and we try to inspire at the same time. And we're definitely trying to bring in a newer generation, because all the old guys, man, are all just passing away and retiring and giving up, and our industry is going to start dying as well if we don't. So,
yeah.
And
we all agree there. We all
funny
agree
you
on
say that. Charles at the shop, actually, him and his son are building a truck, and his son's 14, and he decided to get his own YouTube channel to show all the kids out there that, hey, get off your computer games and your arcade games and all that stuff, and start doing something with your hands besides just watching TV and watching kids open up toys and everything else on YouTube. Let's watch some kids build some cars, and that's what he's doing. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now you're just going to get me all fired up about kids in the industry and sitting at home on their ass not doing nothing. You just wanted to get on here to get me all stoked, didn't you? That's what you're doing.
Well, we didn't want it to be boring, so.
Well, if me and you are in it, ain't going to be boring, because
Right, exactly.
I mean, I got some buddies that are teachers, and they call me, and they're shop class teachers, automotive, and they call me, and the stories they tell me will blow your mind. And I got to tell you, I know how we talk about these kids being lazy. Man, I'm here to tell you that the stories that I hear and what I deal with, it's really the parents are just coddling more than it is the damn kids are lazy. I mean, I mean, I got a teacher that has a problem. These kids on their phones in the classroom, and he can't do nothing about it because the parents complain, and you have no right to take my kid's phone and this and that. It's parents. It starts at the home, and you guys, like Paul, I got Ruby, my daughter, she's 12 years old. She's got a junior dragster, and you want that thing to go down the track, you better get your ass to work. Okay. Right. And it's not about, working her like a dog. It's about her learning respect. And she just got done putting hours in painting her car. And I had people say, why are you doing that? just paint it and get it over with. And I says, well, because now when my 12-year-old goes to a car show, she's not going to be disrespectful to someone's vehicle, their paint job or whatever, because now she knows what it takes to do it.
Right. Well, and that goes with anything in life, but showing her how to do that on a vehicle of any kind and all that, you're gaining respect for just hard work, and so even if they don't do the car thing later on in life, it's teaching them. It's just an example of what's going to happen one of these days when nobody's there to do it for you. You got to do it yourself and respect what you just did for yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're going to have to freshen up her motor here, at the end of the season. And I'm sorry, I'm not loading it up and shipping it out to some guy and pay him $1,000 to freshen up a 1-cylinder motor when I'm building blown alcohol motors. I'm going to teach her how to do it. I'm going to teach her how it works. And I guess, hey, everyone can raise their kid the way they want. But the way I see it is if you got your kid involved in, we're just using junior dragster racing as an example. If you're not teaching your kid all the aspects of that car, to me, you're really not accomplishing anything to helping the industry. I mean, most of these dads, they have built, everything from twin turbo to blown alcohol to everything you can think of. They know how to deal with that. Why are you throwing money at that motor? Spend time with your kid, tear it down and learn and teach them how it works so they understand what's going on as they're running down the track with that car.
Exactly. I mean, that's the same thing with sports, I mean, they're going to pay somebody to coach their kid on the side, make them learn how to hit a baseball better, Why not spend the time with your kid yourself and teach them that? So, I mean, that's why it's a perfect example that, doing this with cars is a life experience and ain't just a hobby, with bringing these kids into it.
Oh, absolutely. And I totally agree. And the coddling is what I call it of these kids. I mean, coddling has no place in motorsports for the kids, whether if they're racing dirt bikes, whether if they're a junior dragster or go-karts or whatever the case may be, because you don't want a kid with that mentality going that fast, on a motorcycle, in a go-kart or whatever, without respecting what it is that they're driving. Because,
exactly.
I grew up, the minute you don't respect that vehicle, that's when you get hurt. That's how I
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
I've been really impressed with the younger kids. We went to a lot of races this last year, not drag racing, but just track racing. And a lot of the little kids that are racing, well, they were talking to my 5-year-old son saying how great racing is. And it's pretty awesome to see all these kids just promoting the sport at that age. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what it's going to take to keep it going. So,
yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And but you know what though? I mean, there's a lot of hurdles to jump. I had a buddy of mine that took his kid in for a physical for the NHRA license for the junior dragster. Okay, and he went in. They did the physical and everything, and the doctor comes in and she goes, "I'm not signing this." And he's like, "What do you mean you're not signing? He passed the physical. I'm not condoning your son racing a race car at his age." And my thing to that is first of all, you have no right to make that decision, okay, doctor or not. I think you're arrogant. I think you're ignorant. And you have no right to dictate what it is that I do with my child. And you have no right to dictate, my kid experiencing these things just because you don't like it because you're uneducated about it. And it was a big deal when that happened, and it should have never taken place. But this is a mentality that we have in our society anymore, where whether if it's the school or now doctors or parents, I mean, the coddling is so bad that we wonder why we have the problems that we have in these kids being lazy. And I'm sorry, going back to repeat myself, it starts at home.
Oh, totally. And, and not to totally stick up for parents, obviously, but, today's day and age, that parents are just so busy because jobs are so demanding and working extra hours and all that stuff. And then when they get home with their kids, they don't have the time to spend with them. I mean, it's a dedication to do a sport like drag racing with your kids. I mean, it's not just loading it up and going to the track. It's like you said, showing your daughter how to paint the car and all that stuff. even if you buy one ready to go, you still got to spend the time maintaining it and everything else. And
Yeah.
people just don't want to spend that time with their kids because one, they're lazy, and two, they you know, they're, like you said, they're coddling them, or they're just too darn busy. So either way, we, you know, this industry needs the parents to push these kids, not push them, but, you know, get them to do things like the drag racing or working in the garage of any kind, or even watching your TV show, Joe, instead of watching cartoons or not that cartoons are bad, but or watching kids opening up you know, toys that you can go buy and open up yourself. You know, I just don't
Right.
understand that. You know, that kid's a millionaire to start all that stuff. Not to take away from him, at least he's an entrepreneur, but still, you know, we need to get these kids to be interested in the industry. Otherwise, it's going to be a dying industry.
Oh, absolutely. And we, you know, we got to spark their interest in things. And, you know, and that even goes to even in school, you know, like with auto mechanic shop class and stuff like that. You know, I know a teacher that, you know, he says to me, he says, Joe, he says, maybe you can help me out. How come what can I do to get these kids interested that are in my class? They just seem like they don't care. And after I get talking to him, he finds out, or he ends up telling me that they only go out in the shop once, maybe twice a week. I'm like, well, there's your problem. I'm like,
oh yeah,
boy. I mean, now let's be honest. I mean, most of the time, shop class is dominantly boys. Okay, I mean, and you know, boys, we don't want to sit behind a desk. You know, not all boys want to read a book and learn. You know, we want to get out and work with our hands and get dirty. Well, I'd explain this to him. And he's a great guy, but he's kind of a bookworm. Okay, and then I says, that's your problem. Nobody wants to, you know, join this shop class if I'm a gearhead and sit behind a desk, you know, 4 days out of the 5. Okay, that's not going to work. You know, you gotta, you know, sometimes you gotta say screw the curriculum, and you're gonna have to grab these kids and put them out there and get them working with their hands and get them motivated. And sitting in a classroom all day is not going to work. I don't know why we have to raise our kids today where we feel that they have to be, you know, perfect little soldiers and sit behind the desk and read a book and do your homework. You know, I mean, that's just not reality for a teenager. I mean, let's be honest, Paul, you're a teenager. Mike, you were a teenager.
Yeah.
Listen, sitting there reading a book in a classroom was not on my mind when I was a teenager.
No.
You know what was on my mind? It was cars, wrenches, and other things that I shouldn't mention. But that's what it is when you're a teenager, what you're involved in. So I says, sitting in a classroom is not going to do the job. You're going to have to get them out and get them working.
Well,
so let
like,
you know.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I just so let's, you know, talk about what can we do to get these kids motivated and excited into this stuff. And one of my solutions is look up, you know, the hot rodders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, where these kids race to build these engines. I mean, if that ain't one of the coolest things, and these kids, boys and girls, they get involved in this, they don't know nothing about an engine. Some of them are not even gearheads. And now they're so involved, they love it, and they're moving on to bigger and better things in the industry. And that's the things we need to focus on.
Well, what's crazy is our generation, we grew up loving this stuff and doing this stuff, and we didn't have all the resources then. We didn't have a junior dragster class. We didn't have you know, hot rodders of tomorrow to go to. All we had was our dads and our dad's friends and everything else, and there wasn't even a whole lot of cool TV shows then. I mean, look at you. I mean, you basically you know, you were inspired by Dukes of Hazzard, I would guess, judging by your lineup.
Yeah, I haven't generally, but yes.
Right, that's right. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I love that show too, but it was stuff like that got me going. But just imagine how it would have been if we would have had all these extra resources back when we were kids. I mean, we would have just dove right into it. And
no, absolutely.
So I don't understand why they're not. So, you know, we need to really focus on that if we can. And also, I think too many parents like shove it in the kids' heads that they have to go to college.
Oh,
and that's and how many people you know that still have college debt, still aren't working in the field they went to college for, and they still don't even make as much money as you do.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? You know, the thing is yeah, the whole college debt thing and these kids going to school. Yeah, you know, what is wrong with promoting trade schools in these kids' heads as much as you promote college? You know, what's wrong with that? I mean, and
Right.
that's the problem. And I'm going to be honest with you. Now, I didn't go to college, okay?
I didn't
But
either.
I got to tell you, you know, growing up over the years, you got these people that went to college that, you know, they had this I'm better than thou mentality, you know,
Right.
and attitude. And not everybody, but there are some that I went to college, I'm better than you. And it's like, dude, you went to college and got a degree in liberal arts. Relax, all right? Calm down there, partner, okay? I mean, it isn't like, you know, you're working at NASA, okay? So, but there are people that went to college that, you know, have come out very smart and do great and wonderful things. But I just got to get it out of people's heads that college is not for everybody. Sitting behind a desk is not for everybody. And at the end of the day, going to school is a great thing. You need to get all the knowledge you can, but go to school and when you do, understand there's other opportunities out there. There's nothing wrong with trade schools. I mean, you can go to trade school and make $100 grand a year.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
versus getting,
totally.
you know, 100 to 150 in debt after 4 years.
But
And
don't
Right.
you,
there's plenty of
yeah,
opportunity out there.
don't
And
you
the
think
other thing is, you go to trade school, you got time. I mean, you can possibly get a job in the industry part-time while you're going to trade school. And then you have that experience to get a job. Because just saying you're fresh out of school, a lot of times don't get you a job because they feel they got to train you in their way of doing things instead of the way you learned in school. So if you can get a job in that industry as you're going to school, you can get the work experience, which is obviously different than class, and then you can get the class experience as well.
Yeah,
And,
it's like a triple threat. You're getting a school,
right,
you're getting the job, and you're still collecting a check.
right.
You know, I mean,
You
it's
get college, you're going home and you're doing homework all night. You know,
right.
and you're doing you can't even get a real job while you're going, and to help pay for the debt you're creating. You know, and then you go into a new job, you're fresh out of school, and they're like, well, we're looking for somebody with a little bit more experience, and you struggle to get a job, then you still got to pay your college debt. So I honestly think that there's something to be said, like you're saying, about the trade schools, and there's so many available out there. I just don't know why that we're not getting the kids right out of that school and getting into the industry right away and making something out of it.
I think the reason why when it comes to that is, again, it starts at home. And, you know, I used to go to shop classes around my area for a day and talk to the kids about everything from doing a TV show to how I started out and whatever, you know. And one time I said to these kids, I says, who here is going to college? And a bunch of kids raised their hand. And in that classroom, 2 kids didn't. And you can tell that they kind of had their head down. And I says, are you 2 not going to college? And they said, no. Now, I asked why, and they had legitimate reasons. And they were kind of sad. I mean, you know, it was one kid had to take care of his mom. You know, his mom wasn't healthy. You know, I mean, they had legitimate reasons. And I says, do you think that you're less or you're going to make less of yourself because you didn't go to college? And the one kid, I swear, I thought he was going to start crying. And he had tears. He says, yes. I says, bull crap. I said, that's a crock. And I says, you know what? I says, here's a reality check. I didn't go to college. I said, do you think I went to college? And he says, well, yeah. What? Why? Because and he says, well, because you're successful. I said, yeah. So you think that just because someone's successful, they went to college? I said, that's the mentality you got to get out of your head. Anybody can be successful if you're willing to work hard.
Right.
I said, I wasn't able to go to college. I said, don't get me wrong. I wish I would have. Life would have been a little easier. I said, but I had to learn the hard way. You know, I says, but, you know, you got to get this mentality out of your head that you're going to be nothing because you didn't go to college. And you could see the spark in his eyes when he found out that I made something of my life and I didn't go to college.
Right.
And how this was coming about, and I ended up figuring out by the end of teaching or this class, was the teacher himself was diehard pounding in these kids' heads that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a loser. That's how these kids were taking it. And I kind of had words with the teacher after the fact. That's uncalled for, you know. And now I'm not bashing college. I am not bashing learning anything. I'm all for it. Get all the knowledge you can. But, Paul, you got to agree, you can't be telling people they're not going to amount to anything because they don't go.
Right. Well,
That's
I mean,
crap.
Well, like I said, you know, trade school is a form of college in my book. And,
It is.
And especially if you're going to get an education on the field you're going to go into, you know. And I just wish I would have gone to one, but I got lucky. I didn't have to because I had my dad. My dad taught me everything I know. Well, back, you know, in his era of working on cars. And then I've had to develop new skills with today's world, but I learned way more than the basics, and I got lucky and I didn't have to. But I even had friends that hung out with me that learned how to work on cars just by hanging out with my dad. And so I got lucky with that. But I do kind of wish I would have gone to a trade school. But, you know, there wasn't as many available then either. Because, like, let's face it, Joe, you and I are kind of old. So
we are old, dude.
I'm older than you.
I mean, like Metamucil in the morning old. You know what I'm saying? You know, like when I turned 40, I realized the value of a nap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Right.
Wait till you get 50. Wait till you hit 50.
Oh,
boy.
But Paul, you're right. We're all on the same page with this, and you know, but you know, solutions to the problem, I guess, is the big thing, and whether how big or how small. And you know, one of my solutions is I noticed the other day that I seen a sign at a dealership, and they were offering a $8,000 sign-on bonus to come in as a mechanic, because fine mechanics right now are like few and far between. So I started thinking about that, and I ended up talking to one of my buddies that, you know, worked at a dealership. And I talked to my father, who worked at a large dealership in South Carolina. And I says, wouldn't it make more sense versus handing somebody, you know, $8,000, whether it's spread over a however long of a term or if it's just a check? Wouldn't it make more sense to give these kids incentive that, you know, have loan debt up to their ears, for the dealership just write a direct check for the loan debt, write $8,000 or whatever, however they break it up, direct toward the loan debt to get it paid off, versus handing them a check and getting taxed like crazy over that money. You know, let's say it's $10,000. You know, they're really only going to get $6,500 to $7,000 of that money in their pocket. I mean, right? Wouldn't it take the whole $10,000 and put it toward the whole entire loan debt? Because they can do that because of taxes and write-offs and so on and so forth, and then start more of a program for that versus, you know, just handing them money. I mean, you know, that you can give it to the government or you can give it to that kid that's trying to start out and pay off his debt. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's also, you know, that's the dealership itself doing that program. Why can't the manufacturer step in?
Right. Well, what I'm saying, the dealership needs to do that program.
Right.
The check, you know, give the loan company a check to help pay off his loan, because that's $3,000, let's say, that could have been paid in taxes or could have went to his loan, because it would have been 100% write-off for the company just to write the check for the loan. You follow what I'm saying? You know, I mean, totally. Extra incentive, extra money, you know. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, you want to start working at a dealership, that's a whole nother. You know, we ain't got that kind of time in the day to talk about doing that, but they need to start. They're all complaining they can't find techs. Well, you need to start stepping to the plate, you know, because you got to remember, gearheads, you know, there's still that mentality out there that we're all grease monkeys, we're all crooks, you know, you know, and that mentality's still out there. But in all reality, you know, I'm not putting down any other profession, but to be a tech nowadays, you really got to be one smart cat.
Oh yeah, and then, you know, on top of it all, you got to buy all the tools and everything too, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one of the holdups on the industry as well. I mean, that's where maybe some tool manufacturers and the manufacturers of the vehicles, if you're talking about dealerships, ought to step in and help out these owners of these dealerships or whatever to start programs doing, you know, because let's face it, If I own a big auto manufacturer, I want qualified people working on them, And
Yeah.
so you know what it takes to get qualified help, and it takes experience and education, just like we've been talking about. So that comes with a cost. And
right, but that's the problem. They don't want to pay.
Right.
I mean, you got to understand. I mean, there's a lot of techs. Right now in my area, if you are a good body man, okay, you can make $35 an hour in my area.
Right.
Okay, easily, if you're really good. My dad was a tech his whole life, retired at a dealership in South Carolina and made $25 an hour.
Right.
That's the problem. And then they're complaining we can't find good techs. Well, duh. I mean, you got to have some incentive. You better be ready to pay up. I mean, schooling's getting to cost more, tools cost more, and something's got to give. And I keep telling some of these younger generation, hey, in the next 20 years, being a tech is going to be one of the highest paid positions you can get into, because of the fact that there's not enough and it's getting harder to do. It isn't setting points and gapping plugs anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, you guys, is, I mean, if there's a shortage now, thinking 10 years, what's it going to be like then? I mean,
that's why we're having this conversation right now.
Hey,
Amen to that. We can.
It'd be scary.
And, there could be hopes that there's someone that owns a dealership that's watching this and can get his head out of his ass and try to figure out something. Because, I mean, if he wants to leave his dealership to his younger generation, his kids, well, you better start working on it now, because there's not going to be nothing. I mean, you got to remember, then we're spoiled because we got to go buy, new vehicles, with heated steering wheels and crap. Well, who's going to maintain that stuff? And now everything, otherwise it's going to turn into throwaway stuff, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we got a man, but that's a whole nother deal. And I think the school programs and the dealer programs would really, really help,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And, and I got to tell you, one of the things that I did want to bring up in this is women in this industry. Okay. Times are changing, and these guys that think that a woman can't do this job, I'm sorry, I just can't support that. I mean, I know a lot of women that they're very smart, they know what they're doing. They I've met women that can shape metal and are fabricators that are just mind-boggling artists. So I really think that mentality's got to go. About women.
Totally.
But I do have to say something that happened to me about a year ago. This woman was messaging me, and she's in a trade school to be a mechanic, and she messaged me on social media, and she was kind of complaining about how she doesn't feel she gets treated fairly, and she doesn't feel that the guys treat her fairly and everything. And I says, well, explain to me what's the problem. And she says to me, she messaged me and says, well, they're always wanting to help me and everything. Like, I don't know what I'm doing and so on and so forth. And I says, do you know what you're doing? And I says, and are they helping other people too? Pay attention. I said, well, one thing led to another. I ended up calling and talking to her through Facebook. Okay. And what it boils down to is she was kind of offended at the fact that she felt that these men were always wanting to help her. Like she can't, she doesn't know what she's doing. And I told her, I says, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it the way that, well, mama raised some pretty good boys, because if they're wanting to help you, okay, that's how men are taught. Men are taught to help women. If that's a problem, well, too bad. That's just the way it is. And would you rather have them wanting to help you, or rather have them wanting to step on you?
Right.
And so if they're willing to help you, it means that they're supporting you. Okay. And if you do know what you're doing, then tell them you do know what you're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, that is what's going to kill you. I said, the biggest thing that I always see is, I understand a woman, wants to be strong and needs to be strong, and I'm all for it, because that's how I'm raising my daughter, and my wife is too, and my wife's involved in this industry. But the biggest mistake that you can do, I told her, is acting like you know what you're doing when you don't.
Right.
Don't lie. Don't lie. That's going to give you a bad reputation, a bad name. And I says, and if it's going, and the sad part is, if it's going to do that even to another guy, if another man is acting like he knows what he's doing in school, but really doesn't, okay, and trying to, fake his way through it, that kind of leaves a mark on him. And if you feel it's hard enough to be a woman in this industry, don't do that. You're just making it harder on yourself.
Correct.
And
that's a good point.
Yeah, and I see this all the time. And, sometimes, I understand that I've dealt with it. Even my wife, I've dealt with her. I can do it. I know what I'm doing. And, well, no, I'm sorry, honey. You don't know what you're doing. You're going to break my heart. It's going to cost me money. I don't care if that hurts your feelings, because whether you are a boy, a girl, or a chimpanzee, I'm going to tell you the same thing.
Right.
And I think that is my advice to women in the industry is, if you don't know, every good mechanic knows he doesn't know everything. So just say you don't know. If someone wants to help you, take the help. And the same goes for anybody trying to be a mechanic. Nobody knows everything, and mechanics never, ever stop learning until they're dead.
Right. You don't learn something every day. If you don't learn something every day, then you're not doing anything.
Yeah, then you're not doing it right. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
I probably went to school for a mechanic, but I went to school for auto body in the 80s. So it's been a long time, and things have changed since then, but I couldn't lay it off. But my school said, oh, we'll help you get a job. They'll do this and that. Never once heard one word from them getting a job, but I did get a few jobs, get laid off, and I'm like, well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'll just do it as a hobby. But, things have changed now, and I'm sure things are a lot safer. You don't have chemicals that are going to kill you,
Yeah.
Like
breathing lacquer all day, with no.
So things have changed for the years. Kind of like everything. Engines are, amazing now. You got all the LS motors. I know Paul works on those, Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely evolving. What do you think's gonna happen after LS motors? Everyone's doing
got
those.
the LT4 stuff out there now. It's really taking off, and and then obviously, and Joe's favorite make of cars, they're really setting the industry strong with all the Hemi stuff and everything, so that's I think we really got it good there, between the big three, the muscle cars they got out now. I mean, that's keeping the industry going as well, and people interested.
Yeah.
So, but I think Joe's right about the programs, though. We need to get the manufacturers, dealerships, and the trade schools, plus even the high schools with the shop classes. Some of them eliminated those shop classes for a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
My high school, my former high school, they don't have automotive class anymore. We had one when I was there. Now it's gone. And,
well, some of that is because kids themselves are not showing interest. I do know one school that doesn't even have shop class, even woodworking shop class, because a kid nipped the tip of his finger, and the mom had a fit, and insurance went up, and a bunch of parents, were coddling their kids. They wanted to see the shop, and my kid ain't working by a saw, a table saw.
Right.
It's like 16 years old and everything, and and that's where, and then it was just so much coddling and babying that the school said, you know what, just shut it down, because parents wouldn't let their kids even sign up for the class. So, and people think this is far-fetched. It's not. This is happening every day. I mean, for some reason, I don't know why, to get off topic a little bit, I don't know why we feel that we need to pamper our kids so much that, explain to me why you are 20 years old and your mom is still balancing your checkbook type of thing. Okay. I mean, I know people that it's like, and then you wonder why you have no respect when you come to work with a bunch of grown men. You know what I mean? And that's why, you know, I mean, there's no reason for this. I mean, it's literally the coddling is out of hand. You know, when I was a kid, I can remember showing up in school with the cheap $20 pair of tennis shoes and everybody made fun of me and I didn't have the greatest clothes and everything. Now, every kid's got the best shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Every kid's got the best clothes. You know, there's no shame anymore. There's, you know, and there's no humility anymore. And we got to raise our kids like we're all our kids are on Beverly Hills 90210. You know what I mean? We got to raise them all like they're the best of the best, and then when they're in sports, they're going to be the next NBA player, the next NFL player, the next.
Right.
Reality is here's what parents don't want to hear. Hey, you know, your kid might be, you know, pushing a broom at Home Depot, you know, at the age 18. That's reality. You don't know. So teach him to be humble.
Right.
Yeah. And we gotta cut out the coddling and the spoiling because it's affecting everything. It's affecting not just the jobs that we know about. It's affecting jobs everywhere because you can't hire these kids to do anything anymore. I mean, yeah, they're lazy and they feel entitled.
And what are they gonna do when they're 30 years old and you know, boss gets on him a little bit, or another guy working next to him gives him trouble? Is he gonna call his mom then?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had 3 years ago, I had a guy that was helping me in the shop. Well, he was a young kid. He was 21. And I explained to him 11 times that how he was doing the job and doing it wrong. Okay.
Wow.
Every time I would explain to him, and it's just happened here recently too, but 11 times. And I told him, I said, this is the 11th time I explained this to you. I said, don't make it a 12th. Come the 12th, I wasn't nice anymore. I jumped his ass. Okay. And do you know he quit because he felt that I was too stern with him.
Yeah,
Dude,
I can see that.
Get ready for the real world, partner.
Right. I had a friend that retired from being a welding instructor at a trade school.
Yeah.
And every one of his kids, he treated them all the same, and he was hard on every one of them. And they would go home, cry to their parents, everything else, and all this stuff. And now he's retired. He moved to Florida. You know, he doesn't even have a house. He's got a big travel trailer and just goes place to place and exploring the world. But that's beside the point. The kids that he had, some of them worked for me when I had my own business.
Yeah.
And I still talk to them every once in a while. And they are so glad that he treated them that way. Because they've gone into the industry and they've gotten way, way worse treatment than they ever expected. And it's just because it's a hard trade. And, you know, you earn respect with the people you work with. You don't just go in there and set the world on fire. You know, you start from the bottom. And so if kids can learn that and have their parents help them with that and be stern on them about, you know, just daily life events and everything else to prepare them for this industry, that would help. And that all goes into the coddling you're talking about.
Yeah. And you know what, I'm going to say something here that is probably going to strike the nerves of a few people. And well, Paul, you know me, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But
what's a filter, right?
Yeah. Here's something that I told some of my friends here, you know, a while back. I said, you know, in schools today, boys can't be boys. Right. And boys are becoming men. Well, they're supposed to be. And you can't even get into a fight in school. Even if you beat up the bully, you get suspended nowadays. Right? Okay. So we haven't even taught our boys to learn how to defend themselves, learn how to deal with that kind of stress and tension and everything. But when you turn 18, we're going to put a gun in your hand and you go over there to the desert and you're going to watch your friends get blown up. And then you wonder why they come back and PTSD is running rampant.
Right.
They can't handle it.
Right.
Okay. So it makes zero sense to me. I mean, I want to understand what some of these parents and these school boards are thinking. That explain to me that all of a sudden a young man hits this magical number of 18 and they're supposed to be an adult. They may legally be one. And yes, they can join the military and they could go do all this great stuff, but they're mentally not ready for it.
Correct.
I mean, what do you do with a group of kids that's never defended themselves in any way, shape, or form and has been coddled and had their ass wiped for so many years, then turn around and expect them to all of a sudden they're supposed to be a man?
Right.
And then meaning our generation, and like we're doing now, and we're complaining about it. So hence why we need more solutions. And boys becoming men need cruel love. They need to be taught. Period.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% the truth. I mean, you couldn't be more right about that.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and it's sad. And I've met people from the military with PTSD, and I feel so bad for them. And I'm not saying that, you know, they're weak or nothing like that. If you're taking that out of what I'm saying, then you're just trolling, looking for an argument. But what I'm saying is just, you know, I worry about them guys. You know, I mean, some of them are my friends, and you know, if you watch the show, you know, we have done shows in episodes with PTSD issues stuff, and I just feel sorry for some of them guys. They got shortchanged in growing up in, you know, in high school and experiencing the things that we experienced because of coddling. And I really feel that, I'm not saying it's the answer, and I'm not saying it's, you know, the cause, but I'm saying it's just something to take note of. I'm based on opinion.
It also could be broken families too. I mean, some of them probably don't have dads. I mean, live
broken
stuff
family.
too. So that doesn't help either.
No.
I think that's part of the equation.
Hey, I've been with my wife 20 years this May, 25 years total, and you know, and that's something we don't teach our younger generation. Listen, I'm here to tell you that's work.
Okay? Oh yeah.
Hey, I love my wife. I love my wife, but honey, that's work. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Okay, I mean that's a lot of time and effort putting into maintaining a relationship, and we don't.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
You don't see that. You know, you don't see that because there's so much divorce and everything else going on. I mean, it's pretty rough out there. You know.
Well, we made marriage too hyped up, and we made divorce too easy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Well, guys, I hate to leave good company, but speaking of younger generation coming in this, if I don't get back, one of them might take my job. So
you got to find one first, buddy.
I know. Yeah, very funny. So, Paul, no, I got a good job, so I'm headed back there now.
Paul, nobody can replace you, buddy. You're one of a kind.
Yeah. Oh, come on, man.
Oh,
I appreciate that. I know you're full of it a lot of times, so I don't know if I believe you or not. But
you know, I love busting your balls. You know,
I know you do, man. We have the greatest time.
We do.
I think we're a lot alike, so it works out well. And I hope we can inspire some kids and younger generation, and I hope some people are listening today because we got on some good points. So I appreciate you guys having me, and I love just sneaking up on you with this, Joe, because I know you had no idea
That's great.
I was going to call in.
Yeah, thanks, awesome. Paul, for doing that.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Hey, no problem. I'll see you guys soon. You guys take care, and thanks again.
Yeah, we'll talk to you later.
See ya.
See ya.
Gotta love Paul. You know, he's a great guy.
Yeah, I could just tell he was, you know, just seeing him at SEMA, I just could tell he was a good guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's a good guy. And, you know, me and him, we have a lot of the same values about this industry and, you know, how important it is and, you know, with everything going on. I mean, you got to remember, man, right now on TV, for example, this industry is booming. I mean, look at everything with the Street Outlaws and what's going on with that. You know, that has brought racing back, you know, tenfold. I mean, it's crazy what's going on between that, radial tire racing, and, you know, I mean, just so on and so forth. I mean, there's a lot of kids in my circles that have got involved in junior dragster racing with parents that have never been to the drag strip because they watch a TV.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, you need to understand, people need to understand that good and bad, that TV does play a huge role on how we live our lives and what we do.
Well, before all that started happening, don't you remember there's almost like a little lull of people losing interest in drag racing, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So those shows could have possibly saved it right there.
Oh,
People are
absolutely.
losing interest.
Yeah.
People complain about the NHRA rules and blah blah blah. You see them complaining about everything, but
Yeah.
yeah, they could have died out, kind of like NASCAR was doing. I don't even know how they're doing now, but their stands are not as full as they used to be. So NASCAR kind of lost some too.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, right now, everything goes to a peak and then comes back down,
Yeah.
but no matter what it is. And right now, I believe drag racing is at its peak. It hasn't been here in years, but right now, I think it's going to start coming down. Now, I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's going to come down and crash. It just might come down and kind of like level off. Okay.
Right.
And everything in the industry does. I mean, I seen it when I was building custom choppers. It was at its peak, and then it that crashed. I mean, that crashed and went under the graph. Okay. But I don't think drag racing is going to do that. It's going to kind of come down and level off. But I will say that the reality is, I'm going to get a little cruel. I think a lot of these people that are running these major companies and corporations like NHRA, NASCAR, I think some of it on why NASCAR is going down and NHRA themselves are going down is because, well, some of them guys need to retire. Your old way of thinking ain't going to work. Okay.
Right.
And then some of it is you have these CEOs that are hiring other college people that know absolutely nothing about drag racing or NASCAR, and because it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And their egos are so huge they can't see the forest for the trees on why there is no asses in the stands. Well, it's mostly because you're just not paying attention to what the people want.
Right.
And you're worrying about counting them beans, and them beans ain't gonna be there forever to count.
Right. It's interesting to see how the industry is changing, and like I say, we were talking earlier, the street rods, hot rods are losing their value. A lot of them are actually going overseas. I'm seeing a lot of stuff going to Australia, Sweden. Places like that. So we're losing some of the old cars.
Yeah, I've already been contacted about my car. About if I would sell it, and he was from overseas.
Yeah.
He was from Australia.
Yeah, so here all of our American cars are leaving this country, and at a rapid pace. I think it's actually more than people think. I don't know if there's studies on that, but I'm pretty sure it's more than people even know. But
I've actually met one guy that has a company, and that's all he does is ship cars overseas. Muscle car. That's all he does. And
he's probably busy.
And he's a busy man, and he's made a lot of money. Yes.
Yeah.
And this industry is tough. I've had, and I was flattered. I've had, very, rich guys getting involved in this industry, and I've asked my opinions on stuff, because I eat, breathe, and sleep this industry. And my advice to them was this: is find a guy like me to hire, okay, to work with your company that you're starting.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go looking for the guy, that graduated with honors on some college or whatever that doesn't know the difference between a spark plug and a lug nut. Okay, don't go hire, because that's exactly where the first thing they're heading to. I says you got to get the guy that can relate to the average gearhead in your company first.
Right.
And I just dealt with this not that long ago with a guy buying a car that he should have never bought. He hired a guy that doesn't know anything about cars, and he got duped and got screwed and wondered why. Well, you got to hire me to go do it, and so I think that is something that, the best advice I can give these businesses is hire someone in the industry.
Right. Wow. Yeah, we were going to talk about your car because the Dauntless Daytona. I just wanted to know a little bit about it, like what you have in for a motor, what it runs. Because I have a lot of friends that are interested in your car, and when I first saw it, I thought, "Holy crap, the thing is sweet," But tell us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you very much. And am flattered and excited, and I love all the social media coverage that I've gotten with that car. I was never expecting nothing like that. You know, I'm blushing, you know what I mean, kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know. And I thank everybody that has helped, you know, promote that car on social media, because, you know, that was 9 years of my life. And in them 9 years, you know, I have dealt with, you know, some, you know, bad things, and working on that car, you know, has helped me make it through. So that car has a lot of meaning to me,
Right.
along with a lot of my other cars. And, you know, I painted a guy's semi, and he gave me a 68 Charger that was a rolling roach. You know, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I ended up gutting that car, and I thought, I'm going to build a tube chassis car. And oh, I couldn't tell you the kickback and the lashback I got from that about, you know, you've never built a chassis, you don't know what you're doing. And then, you know, the people tell you can't do it, you know.
Right.
Okay, so I bought a bunch of tubes, and, you know, and started building it, you know, and I based it off a Vanishing Point chassis, which those guys helped me out with some of the stuff for the chassis and stuff. And I built that car, you know, over 9 years, and then I kind of had to shove it in the corner because of trying to get a TV show, you know, Garage Squad up and running. You know, that consumed my life for a very long time, you know, to get that show, you know, where it is today. And then finally, about 3 years ago, I said, you know what, it's time to finish it. And I just kept working at it and chipping away, me and a couple of my buddies, and we got it done. And you know, that car was, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there. And it just shows that, yeah, things can take a long time, you know, to get done. But if you just whittle away at it a little bit every day, before you know it, you're in the driver's seat. You know what I mean? Pretty
cool.
The car it's an alcohol blown Hemi. It's a billet motor setup. And it's stuff that I have pieced together. I mean, literally that whole drivetrain on that car is used. You know, I mean, I know everyone thinks you're on TV, you're a millionaire or whatever, and that's not the case. But it, you know, it makes about 2,500 horse, and it's got a Linko drive in it. And you know, I built everything on the car from, you know, front to back, top to bottom, bodywork, chassis, the whole 9 yards. And I don't claim to be, you know, a great chassis guy or a great welder or a great body man or an engine builder. I don't claim to be the best of any of that. But what I do claim to be is the guy that, you know, is not afraid to get down and dirty, bust my ass and try it. You know?
Right. You know, it's always funny when people tell you you can't do it, or you can't do, you know. You know how many stories I hear that people are told that? Like, I know a couple artists that were told you'll never do anything, and then he ended up designing stuff for Lord of the Rings.
Right. See?
The Hobbit, you know, and he was told that he'd never do anything.
Yeah.
And then just Kobe Bryant, I just saw a video, and I posted yesterday, I think. One of his guidance counselors said that you'll never do anything in basketball. And now look, you know.
Yeah, right.
He's one of the best ever.
You know, let's just say what we really want to say. If you're one of them guys that is looking at somebody that says you can't do it, or you don't know what you're doing, or you've never done that before, you're an idiot. Actually, you're kind of, you suck. You're a jerk, and I'm just going to be ignorant about it. I mean, if you're that guy telling someone they can't do it, because here's the reality of that. Those of you that have been told you can't do something, take a look at the people that are telling you that you can't do something. Take a close look. It's not that you can't do it. What it is they can't do it, so they don't want you to.
Yeah.
Because it makes them feel bad. It makes them feel less. I mean, you know, I started my own business when I was 23. It told you can't do it. Next thing you know, I got motorcycles and everything in magazines left and right. Okay. Huge accomplishments and strides at that age. Okay. And I didn't have nobody handing me nothing. I started my own business with $140 to my name. Okay. And a wife crying because she thinks I'm nuts. Okay.
Right.
So, and I was told I couldn't do it. Well, I did it. Then I was told that I couldn't, you know, build these cars, and I did it. And I was told that I couldn't build the Daytona, and I did it. And I was told I couldn't do a TV show because I don't know nothing about it, and I did it. And so on and so forth. And I am the guy, I am living proof that if you've ever been told you can't do something, just type in my name, okay? And know that I'm the guy that has been told that more times than anybody that I know in my circle.
Yeah.
And I don't have family that handed me money or helped me, with money. I don't come from that background. I mean, I started out working on garbage trucks and porta-john trucks, okay? So
Yeah.
it's not, so if you're told that you can't do it, feed off of that.
Right. I think a lot of people do, and that's what makes them great. I mean, because of, that challenge or being put down, you just got to prove it to yourself and everyone else that you can do better than everyone thinks, and that it might drive you. You might not think of it that way, but it might have drove you to do greatness, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it did drive me. I mean, but you know what? Here's another thing that I also want to say about that too, is sometimes I wonder with the haters that I had, and haters in reality, they can come from your closest friends, inner circle, of yours. They can come from family. Them haters can come from anywhere. And I've had them in places that I never thought that haters would come from.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder if, where would I be today if I had support instead of the hate from them people? You follow me? So try to surround yourself, no matter the cost. If you have dreams and drives, try to surround yourself by people that are going to help, promote you, or that are going to help lift you. And sometimes those are very hard decisions. You got to look in the mirror and go, I got to do what I got to do,
Right.
And I mean, it's just something that sometimes I go, like I said, repeat myself, where would I be if those haters were helping me instead of hating me? How much farther could I have done? Because haters will knock the wind out of you. I don't care. I have a saying, okay, that, if two haters are off in a distance throwing stones, you know what? Don't worry about them. The chances of them hitting you are slim to none. But when you got 100 haters throwing stones, you're going to get hit, and it's going to hurt, and it sucks.
Right. That's something. I watched a lot of your videos, and I pretty much every video I've watched of yours, I've agreed with everything you said. It's like, man, what he's saying is totally true, and I love watching your videos. So
well, I appreciate it, dude. I got to tell you, I'm the guy that is here, trying to uplift people and everything. And I'll be honest with you, I need to listen to my own advice because I haven't really done a lot of videos lately. And it's because I have been kicked and beat and with haters and in my circle, and that I wouldn't expect. Reality is you can use social media to find out who's in your circle. It's not that hard. And I'm going to let everybody know that's watching this and has made it all the way to the end. And I've said this before, is that on my page, on my app, when my friends or family like any of my videos on my social media, on my public figure page, it tells me. Okay. It tells me my friends and family that even like my page. I have friends and family that still don't like my page. And when I talk to them, they lie to me right to my face.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the reality is if you want to have a job where you're in the public eye, you might as well suck it up, Buttercup, because that's exactly what you're going to deal with. I have family, I have friends and everything that they are not supportive, but they lie to you and tell you they are. They don't hit that like button. They're not sharing. And here's the reality that they need to understand. In today's world we live in, those likes help put food on my table.
Yeah.
It's not hurting you.
Well, my family doesn't like any of my stuff except for me, my dad once in a while, but everyone else is just like, oh, they're sick of everything I do because I put a lot of time into it. I do a lot of do my website for free, but I'm promoting others. I'm helping other people. I'm helping a lot of charities, and it's something that's, even helping the charities makes it worth it to me, So.
Yeah. And
not
I
out there running with pockets of money or anything like that at all,
Yeah.
But I'm supporting a lot of people, and to walk away from what I do, leave a hole in my heart, So
Yeah.
so
Well,
my,
and
my
I
old
think it's great that
son
you do that.
hates it. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I'll admit it. And I'm up late at night, 2 a.m., and then I have to get up and work my normal job, So,
Right,
and then
right.
now doing a podcast, and, what else am I going to do next? My buddy Ed's trying to get me on TV. I'm like, well, we'll see, I
Well,
don't
yeah,
know.
I mean, I know we're coming up to the end here, and Mike, and my closing statement is gonna be, this is people come ask me all the time, people that are trying to be famous, and they say, what's it like being famous, and so on and so forth. First things first, I do not consider myself in the category of fame. I just don't. I'm not that guy. Okay. And here's what I tell everybody. I says, listen, I do a TV show where I get to have a little bit of fun, and I get to teach a little bit of my life experiences and my knowledge. I'm grateful, I'm humble, and I'm very thankful that I get to do that. The best that I feel that I'm going to get out of being on TV is, and I've said this 1,000 times, is
Right.
if when I'm dead and gone, my grandchildren can sit and watch an episode on YouTube of Garage Squad, and my daughter can say, look what your grandpa accomplished. Look what he did.
Yeah.
That's good enough for me. And I tell people that are striving and fighting and trying to be famous, I try to tell them, think about that. If that's not good enough for you, then maybe you should not try to pursue being famous on a gearhead TV show, because that's really all you're going to get out of it.
Right.
And you need to be happy with that.
Yeah. That my intention of being famous by what I'm doing wasn't, I thought maybe I could make a little money someday, but
Well, of course. Well, we all want to make a living.
Yeah. But I've done it for free since 2001. I tried charging $5 to put a flyer on my website, and I had people ripping me, calling me this one lady had a horse rescue place, and she called me an animal killer because I was going to charge her $5 to put a flyer on my website. But
them are people. Them are people that just suck and get rid of them. Let's be honest. But hey, I understand everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame, and I hope everybody gets it. But when you get it, you got to respect it. And I respect it. I respect what I do, and I try to be, I'm always trying to be nice to the fans, the people that come up and meet me and everything. But at the end of the day, I'm not your Chip Foose. I'm nowhere near his caliber, as far as talent, and I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm just trying to be, Joliet Joe, building cards and having fun and busting balls and meeting people and laughing and smiling, and that's it. And if you're expecting more than that out of me, I'm not your guy.
Well, it's been awesome. I'm glad you were able to do this with me. So thank you so much. Wish Ed could have been here, but he's said he was sick and thrown up. So
that's
joining us today. And I've gone through that, but I didn't throw up earlier this year. So I had the flu already. So it's not fun. Yeah.
Well, listen, I thank you for having me on. And, and I got to tell you, I thank you for having a real discussion in this industry and not just about, what my first car was and my favorite color. Thank you.
Well, we'll have to do it again sometime. So,
anytime.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It really means
problem.
a lot to me.
All right, man. And
catch up. Hopefully you're going to SEMA, because I hope to meet up with you.
If I'm not racing, I'm going to SEMA. Okay?
All right. We'll see.
Thanks,
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.